Hey there, YouTubers. Alright, so in this video we're going to show you how to replace your 8th gen CPU that might be in your HP Envy computer. At least that's what the model we have here. We're going to put a 9th gen i3-9100 in it. And if I had we'll call it a weaker video card lying around, I would probably do the i3-9100F, but as it is, we only have the i3-9100 available, and so we'll go this route. So tool you need, because they don't seem to want you screwing with their CPU or making it easy for you. You will need a torque. I think this is a T15 by 2. Hopefully you have a set of these. I'm not unfortunately in my set it's I think it's the second from the last, so it should be that one. The T20 is the biggest one in here, and I know it's not that one, but we have could be a T10 by 2 or T15 by 2. It's one of those. So sorry for not being perfectly spot on with that. I don't think that any of the others will, I'm not sure if any of the others will actually fit in here, so. Alright, so I'm just kind of not popping these out one at a time, going around, slowly loosening them up. A lot of times, you know, when they tell you to put CPU fans in and stuff, they don't have you, you know, go clockwise. So you kind of go from one side to the other. And since these have pretty good spring tension on them, probably not a bad idea. Just take your time, folks. That is all I can say about this one. Just take your time. Hopefully the camera angle's good. It's a problem. One thing I love this Try-One cell phone mount that I use, which is in the description in case you make product videos and you would like to see how I do this, or the thing I'm using. But there we go. So we're going to disconnect the CPU fan. If I can get in there, and they have the shortest cable possible here. So the CPU fan is out, folks. So we're going to end up cleaning this up and cleaning our CPU up as well. I'm not going to do it in the video though, but just realize you'll want to clean both those up. And in the next moment, you will see me with the i3-9100. Alright folks, so we have our i3-9100. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. And basically, you know, one thing to note when we pulled it out, there is usually some kind of marking on either your CPU socket lockdown mechanism, whatever you want to call that thing, or it'll be on the motherboard. So right there you can see on the motherboard, and on your CPU there will usually be kind of like a gold triangle in one of the corners, and that is where you want that to line up with. So one thing to note, I don't know if you saw how much thermal paste was on the CPU. There's way too much thermal paste, to the point where it was overflowing out the side, and that you know, quality control issue. I'm sure these computers are made somewhere where, you know, they don't necessarily always check the quality like they could, but that to me was really bad. So made kind of a mess, and made it a lot harder to clean up. But alright, so we're going to put the CPU in, and there's a tool to do this. I've done it enough by hand that I haven't screwed up any lately. And hey, I didn't line that up right. So you want to make sure it's in there correctly, because when you bring this down, if it's not lined up right, it will rake it over the pins, and you will end up with bent pins, and that's not such a good thing. So you got to kind of work this in so that it pops up underneath there. If it doesn't, you're asking yourself for more trouble. So then we will then pop it in there, and she is in. Next, we're going to apply our thermal paste, and really we only need to put a little dabble on there. You know, depending on what kind of computer build you're going for, if you're really gonna, not in these cases, but in the other ones where you're going to be doing some serious overclocking, you really need good thermal paste. For this computer, you know, I'm using some of the cheaper stuff. Personally, you know, if cost is no issue, buy the better stuff. Because this stuff actually looks a little, not watery, but you know, it almost looks like the chemicals are starting to break up a little bit. So actually, alright, so we're reapplying our thermal paste because I did not like the way that was looking in that initial group. It's evident that it was starting to break up a little bit. Alright, so now we can put our CPU fan back on. In this case, I'm going to try and plug it in first, if I can do this, because it might be easier later. Okay, so then now we just got to line up our 4 holes, trying not to smear the thermal paste all over the place. And we're locked in, or not locked in, but we're lined up. So I'm just going to slowly do these one at a time until we get to the end, and then they'll all be nice and tight. A good thing to do though is also check to make sure that you're actually lined up with all of your screws or bolts. Is if you're not, you will over tighten it on one side, and so it's always good to have something like this with you where you can actually see what you're doing. So we're just going around and around. And there'll be a part 2 to this video where I actually run this and do some benchmarks. I believe we've, well, we have a, tell you what's in here. Western Digital Black M2 NVMe 250 or 256 gigabyte SSD, so it's got pretty decent performance. We have possibly between 20 and 24 gigs of RAM, and now we have the i3-9100, so we'll do a CPU user benchmark on it. So this one's nice and tight, that last one was nice and tight, that guy's tight, and you know, we don't want to over tighten these, and we're good. So that about wraps it up, folks. Check out the next video, part 2. Thank you. All right, folks. So in previous videos, I have worked on the HP Envy, done quite a few different things for it, and we've updated the BIOS. I've shown you how to do that. We have recently installed an i3-9100, and that's really what this video leads to. So now's the moment of truth, whether it's going to actually boot up. So let me hit the power button. This previously had an i5-8400 in it, which, you know, for a lot of things is possibly a better processor, but I'm not so sure for gaming. So we will actually see how it compares. I've taken out some of the drives in it, but I've kept the same solid state drive, and okay, so it is booting up, and for a second there I was like, the screen's staying blank. So boom, just like that. So if you watched the last video, we changed out the CPU and had nothing else really to do to it. So let me go ahead and put my password in. Alright, so we're going to run the benchmark, but before we do that, so we hear a lot of things updating, almost as if some aspects are changed. So there you go. So i3-9100 running at 3.6 gigahertz, 24 gigs of RAM, and so we're going to go ahead and run the benchmark. I'm going to switch over to screen recorder for that. Alright folks, so you see some of the numbers of this computer. I did take a couple drives out, which may affect the workstation score, but you can see the scores of the Intel Core i5-8400 in here. Overall bench was 92.4, and you know, things you care about for gaming, the single core and the quad core scores. So we shall see how those do with the new i3 in there. So let me go to the benchmark and got my little screen recorder going there. All right, so the fact that we're seeing the graphics pop up is a good thing, because you don't see those, usually means that your benchmark's not going to work. So it should just be a little bit longer. All right, folks. So all right, so we ran the benchmark. Got gaming score 18%, desktop score 94, workstation 55. Gaming is low because there's no graphics card. Desktop is really good, considering there's no graphics card, but that is helped out quite a bit by the solid state drive, I'm sure, and the 24 gigs of RAM, which those would also help out the workstation. When I ran this, I had HitFilm Pro open and quite a few windows or tabs inside of Windows here that took away probably from some of the RAM, but CPU usage is 3%, so that's a pretty good number. The i3-9100, I've had better scores out of it than we're showing here. That's still better than the i5-8400 for single core. Quad core comparative, but multi-core is nowhere near as good as an i5-8400. So really all you can get out of this video is, yeah, the i3-9400 did work with this computer. Is it running as good as it could? That's questionable due to the fact that it's only in the 42nd percentile, and My PC status is actually showing as red, so I don't know if that's because comparatively most of these NVs, HP NVs, have video cards in them, but it's not quite doing as good as it could. So it does work, and I may try an i5-9400F in here if I can free up a video card that would work. The i5-9600K I have, it's not recommended for this computer due to the fact that it's an overclockable chip and it draws more power, so I'm not going to try that one in here. But overall, it looks like a success. Thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe.